MoMondays is a place where we care more about the story. We care about who you are, not just what you do. There's lots of people who care what you do, but this is a chance for you to share, to just open your heart, be yourself, be authentic, and step into yourself.
Trouble is, when I entered school, all that creativity, all that energy began to become a hindrance rather than an asset. But remember, I did not know I had ADHD. All I knew in school was that I had some challenges that I had to overcome. Reading was awful. And it's partly because I'm dyslexic, but also I have Irlen Syndrome, which I only found out about 4 years ago. And Irlen's is light sensitivity. And so when I'd read a page, words would jump around the page. I actually saw letters falling off the page, and I'd look on the floor for them. And I didn't know what was happening. I'd be reading and constantly corrected by the teacher. But you know, I didn't let that stop me. I kind of believed that the more books I took home at night, the smarter I would become. So I would always have an armload of books. I wouldn't open them up, but I'd take them home. But I just kept challenging, kept going.
It was a secret she had held tightly to herself for many, many years. And she told the story. Her father was an SS officer, and her mother was 5th or 6th generation German. And they believed in the cause of creating a master race. The vision was very much part of what they believed strongly in. And so they had 4 babies in 3 years, and Ingrid was the only child to survive. And when she was born, she was put into this maternity hospital and cared in state with all the other Lebensborn children, which approximately about 4,000 children were born under that program. And when the war ended, all German citizens were deported back to Germany, and so there was no denying Ingrid's heritage. And so she was returned to Germany without a family to return to. She was adopted by this foster family, and they loved her greatly.
However, when I was talking to my therapist about it, all of a sudden it came out, and I said, I want to tell you about my encounter in the woods at the age of 14. He looked at me and he said, I have 2 questions. And I said, okay. He said, so would it be fair to say that you suffered a trauma? Even saying that out loud was just like the beginning of me getting more healthy around that. So that was a big step. But it was the second question that brought me to my knees. What is your relationship with the forest like? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm walking and I'm always afraid that something is going to jump out. A wolf, a bear, a bad person. And he said, Kathy, that is because they did. Oh, it was just like a shot in the stomach. I have cried many tears. And I've also gotten much healthier from recognizing that that's exactly what did happen. I don't have to live with that story, but I have to be aware of it.
The machine sucked me in by my feet. What I call a moment of time as a half a heartbeat. I found myself literally hanging upside down, trapped by my feet from this machine. You can imagine at this point chaos ensued, and people were running around and trying to figure out what had happened and how to get me out, and that's a story in itself. And the fire department came, and there was actually, I think, someone counted 23 emergency vehicles outside the building, and then they landed a helicopter, and eventually they started to cut me out and started to cut the machine, and that's when they set me on fire. Barbecued legs is good. And they got me out. They got the fire out. I wasn't burnt. I was okay. So they got me out, and they loaded me into this helicopter and flew me down to Sunnybrook in Toronto, major trauma center. And when I got there, and this is going to sound a little weird, when I got there, the doctors couldn't find my feet.
I was to learn that my husband, the reason I wanted a divorce is while I'd been off having our second baby, he had bought another company without my consent, set up a new company, an incorporated company, and transferred all the assets of our business that I worked in, and he transferred it over into this other company. And I didn't know anything about it. And he had done it by bank debit, so that by the time I was off having the baby, there was a good chance I wouldn't see the bank statement, because he knew I was going to have that baby, right? And my whole world changed. I really didn't know exactly what was going to happen. And I kept asking myself, what do I do? What do I do? And I started looking through some old papers, because I never gone through my husband's personal things. Why would I? We all had a life before we got married. And I went through his personal papers, and I was to find out that he had a criminal record. The man I was married to had a criminal record, and he'd been incarcerated for dealing in automatic weapons.
And I'll be honest, I just wasn't sure if I could do it. I didn't know if I could learn everything I needed to learn, not only just to pass the exams, but to actually be effective in the job. It was a lot of learning, 3-hour exams, 2 of them, learning and memorizing and being able to keep all that stuff in my head. So why did I think I couldn't do it? I'll step back 3 years before that, to January of 2000. I went to sleep in my bed, and I woke up in the hospital. I had had a seizure. And I left the hospital that day being told that I had some problems with the arteries in my brain. Kind of a big deal. So after a number of MRIs and CT scans and angiograms, I got scheduled for surgery. So here's what my surgeon said to me. He says, "Karen, my dear, we're going to cut a little window in your skull, and we're just going to go in there and fix it up." Okay, alrighty then. So that's what we did.
And all I can say is thank you, bless you, and see you next month.